In my biology of women class, we were going over intersexuality and transsexuality, and my professor, like my friend Athena and I were both women's studies majors, we kept kind of raising our hands, being like, wait a minute, hold on, you need to like reevaluate the way you're saying this or whatever. And so a lot of the girls had a lot of questions regarding trans and regarding bisexuality and lesbianism and gay and like all kinds of things that to me are like, how can you not know that? But I wanted to inform them, and so we actually taught the class on today's Wednesday. We taught the class on Monday it's an hour and 20-minute seminar, and we got up and we taught the class, and we did kind of an all-encompassing thing. We started with intersexuality and the debates regarding genital corrective surgery on babies that are born intersex. Sure. And we kind of looked at both sides of the issue, but obviously we're biased and we don't feel that those surgeries should be performed. And we explained why and the different types of intersexuality. And we focused also on transgenderism, people that are transgendered, and the difference between transgendered and transsexuality. And we talked a little bit about bisexuality, lesbianism, gay. We talked about gender identity in terms of butch, androgynous, stud, all the different kind of labels that there are out there, and kind of really tried to give them an all-encompassing, like, hour and 20-minute, like, here you go, here's everything in a nutshell.
Right.
And it actually turned out really great. I had a lot of the girls coming up to me like, you did such a good job, and today in class we brought up the intersexuality thing, and one girl raised her hand and said, I just want to say that before coming to this class and before having you guys teach us, like my friend Athena and I, she said, I would have felt that performing surgery on intersex babies was totally okay, totally ethical and moral. She's like, but now after hearing you guys speak and really inform me, I completely I feel so much differently about the situation. I've learned so much, and I've really it's turned my views around, and I've kind of I feel like I've learned a lot and I'm really interested. So that was pretty awesome. I was like, I'm gonna cry. It was a little, so.
Yeah, that's great. It's interesting that you're talking about the intersex babies and the surgeries, and certainly a lot of the research that's been done on that has benefited us
Sure.
in the transsexual community, because nobody would waste their time on us otherwise. but that research, that sort of that. How can we figure out how to get this right? Research actually benefited us, but it's very interesting. Certainly, it would be nice if you could maybe give us a little sort of a time tour on the whole intersexuality thing and what is happening with the surgeries regarding that. And
from what I know so far, I don't think they perform the surgeries automatically. I think there's like a 5-day waiting period. Right, I think. From what I last read, the doctors give the parents kind of a 5-day period of okay, if you want to have surgery done, here you go, you got 5 days to decide. I thought it was totally illegal now, but I'm not sure.
I don't think it is.
From what I talked about today in class with my colleagues and my professor, somebody said that there was a 5-day waiting period that they give the parents from the birth of the child.
I think it's still at a point that if the parents and the doctors agree to do it, they do it. And we should probably clarify for anyone who's watching, who's not up on all the vocabulary, do you want to give the short definition of intersex as our academic tonight? Then generally speaking, when you're talking about an intersex baby, we're talking about babies that for phenomenal or genetic reasons, they're born and they have ambiguous genitalia.
Right, and that can be external or that can be internal.
Right, and so the doctors, it's easy when it's sort of an easy, uneducated decision to say, oh, it's just a birth defect, let's correct it, but you don't know at birth which way it's wrong.
Right, you don't know that if the child, the point that I brought up today was if the child is born, let's say the child has male hormones, male chromosomes, but female genitalia, you don't know how the child is going to identify. You don't know if that child is going to grow up and identify as male, female, androgynous, whatever. You have no idea.
Right. And they seem to always get it wrong, too.
But then I read this book one time, and the issue was that the child was born and had undescended testicles.
Right.
And so they did corrective surgery, and the child was raised female, well, a couple years down the line, puberty hits, things are not happening, and I think that's a big issue. Because even if they're like, yeah, I'm okay being, you know, raised female, that works, but then just because your testicles haven't descended doesn't mean they're not there. It doesn't mean you're going to develop as a female.
Well, and I know one of the problems historically was always that, you know, they sort of take the baby out, look between the legs, and make a call. I don't know, are they actually testing babies now to find out
I
if
believe they are doing more chromosome and
Kar-
all kinds of different tests.
karyotyping?
Yeah.
Well, even so, that may not be a reliable way to judge brain chemistry
Right.
and brain
No.
structure.
Sure.
But how would you do corrective surgery on undescended testicles unless there was a penile or clitoral growth of some kind to make the decision? If you've got somebody who's and I forget the various different syndromes, but who basically have incomplete gonads, they haven't finished developing, you know, and externally it looks like a vagina.
But it's just an underdeveloped penis.
Or it's a non-developed because of particular certain syndromes will be non-developed.
Right, and then you can have chromosomal syndromes where you can have 2 X's and a Y.
Yeah.
So,
Klinefelters,
Yeah.
things like XX. Yeah, there's a number of different reasons why it might happen, but you know, I know.
Yeah, you could have an XY chromosome, but the Y chromosome gets shut off.
Yeah.
And we see that.
Yeah, but I know historically that one of the problems was just, yep, looks like a girl,
Yep.
and you don't find out until later, till puberty or until they grow up, and the brain chemistry, the brain sex doesn't start jiving.
Yep. And the child says, "What the hell did you do?"
So why am I so different from all the other
Famously-
girls? Because you're a boy.
Famously, the study that was widely publicized and for years as a success.
Oh, this is the
Money.
whack.
John Money,
John Money.
John
Yeah.
Joan, David
and
Reimer.
then the kid went crazy.
Well, so first, because give an overview.
Well, it was because the child was
What did he do first for the folks who are watching?
The twins.
yeah, it was
He-
the twins.
It's okay. So he took identical twins, and he was trying to, if I remember correctly, right, he was trying to show that it was the environment and the rearing
He
that,
was trying to show that gender and sex was socially constructed.
right, and that it didn't have to do with anything innately biological or in
Right.
yourself. So he took identical twins and he raised one female and one male.
Right, that there was
And
an
that-
accident.
There was a
Included,
circumcision accident when one of the children was little. As a result, I believe it was like they renamed him Brenda, decided to raise him as a girl because John Money was like, sexuality and gender is socially constructed, which means that it's based on societal factors and not necessarily anything that's biologically internal, and decided to raise him as Brenda, not telling him that he was really born a boy.
And they had him on hormones too, didn't they? At the appropriate age.
Yes, I think so.
And the outcome of all this, he had been writing books and papers, and he had touted the success of this
Yeah.
effort. And then it turned out that when this kid grew up and became an adult,
He was like, no.
he suffered serious depression and went to therapy and got his gender back, got his gender identity.
Well,
his
John
gender
Money
identity
had
never
published
changed, but-
those successful reports without even checking with John.
Yeah, because a lot of the research wasn't completely, his parents weren't informed at a certain point.
I think so.
They elected to stop the study when the kids got a little older.
I remember I think the family became very private after Money started publishing. So it took a long time for the fact to come out that this kid was extremely unhappy, and that what was done to him was torture.
Well, and evidence that it was one of the most, that sort of thing can be pretty scarring, I think, is that eventually the subject committed suicide.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's terrible.
these things can be devastating.
It's
Well,
very
we
difficult
won't
to
say
live
that
in
sort of thing.
the wrong gender.
Well,
Yes, it
it's,
is.
it's interesting, like I was in class the other day and a young lady, we were discussing gender and biology and that sort of thing, and a young lady raised her hand and said, well, I don't understand why you feel it's wrong to assign